It's Wednesday, and welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I'm your host, Kevin Noon. It is February 15th. Hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day. Now we're into the back end of February, and before you know it, we'll be into March, and we'll be talking about Ohio State spring football. But until then, we're in a little bit of the chasm. That is the time between the end of the Super Bowl and the start of spring practice. People getting a little bit antsy out there, but there's always a lot of college football to talk about. First things first, be sure to hit that bell, subscribe to the channel, and give me that thumbs up. Certainly helps out. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcasting channels, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It certainly helps out. So now that we got that out of the way, Bill Connelly of ESPN released his initial SP Plus rankings for the upcoming 2023 season. Now, what are SP Plus rankings? They're a very complicated ranking that Bill Connelly runs that puts in a lot of factors, much more than just some of the basic numbers that you see out there. I'm not going to try to explain it. I recommend anybody who wants to learn more about it looks it up. It's a part of behind their paywall on ESPN Insider, but I had the opportunity to look at what the rankings were. And a couple of interesting things coming out there. I mean, obviously, defending champion UGA is going to be number one. Ohio State comes in at number two, and a couple of the categories that Connelly looked at in this piece was he put what the ceiling for the record of each team was going to be, what the floor is, obviously what his SP Plus ranking is, and then odds of going 11-1 or better. So Ohio State is 2 in SP Plus, Michigan is 3, Penn State is 5. Wisconsin is 25 and Iowa is 27. Now, the way that the piece is put together is a little weird because there's a top 25 and the numbers don't match up exactly to what the SP Plus numbers are. But, you know, for the sake of this argument of that we're making here, it doesn't really matter. So Ohio State's ceiling obviously is going to be 12-0. And I think that's the expectation of any Ohio State fan in any given year to go 12-0. To get to Indianapolis and see where the chips may fall from there. Ohio State's floor is 9-3. Now, the funny thing with that is that's a number that I've heard a lot of fans, the pessimistic lot, if you will, throw out there. And it's like, this is a potential 3-loss team. Well, according to Bill Connelly, who has been doing this for a long time, he says Ohio State's floor is 9-3. And as I said, their SP Plus ranking is 2. What are the odds of Ohio State going 11-1 or better? He has it at 39%. Now, I say that with remembering what Ohio State's schedule looks like. 9 league games, 5 on the road, 4 at home, 3 non-con games, 2 at home and 1 on the road. So you open up on the road at Indiana. Week 4, you have your road non-conference game at Notre Dame. You have to go to Michigan, obviously. Penn State comes home. You go to Michigan State. They went to Maryland this year, so Maryland is in Columbus. Ohio State will go to Rutgers. That's kind of filling out how the Big Ten East is going to look like. But you have Wisconsin on your crossovers into the Big Ten West. Luke Fickell's first year with the Badgers and new quarterbacks, new receivers. We're going to assume a very different type of Wisconsin team than what we got used to seeing under Paul Chryst. We go to number 3, and that's going to be Michigan. And they're number 3 in the SP rank and in this top 25 that was listed. Very similar numbers, ceiling 12-0, floor 9-3, very much in lockstep with Ohio State. Where the number differs, though, is odds of going 11-1 or better. And Bill Connelly has it at 46%. Now, let's remember that Michigan's non-conference schedule is legitimately Manny, Mo, and Jack of the Pep Boys. They don't play anybody in their non-conference. Did that cost Michigan last year when it stepped out of conference later and played TCU in the national semifinals? I don't know. Michigan still had to get through Ohio State. So obviously the non-conference schedule didn't stymie Michigan when it came to playing in the biggest game, a game in Ohio Stadium. But you look at Michigan's schedule, and it's a much easier schedule. It gets its biggest game against Ohio State up at the Big House. I'm going to assume with the way that it is that they probably end up getting Penn State in Happy Valley, which will probably be the biggest game there. But, you know, you're seeing a difference of 7%, but the SP Plus still really likes Ohio State. 2 versus Michigan's 3. And then you have Penn State 5 in SP Plus. Their ceiling is 11-1. So according to SP Plus, I'm assuming either Penn State drops a game to Michigan or Ohio State in its best case scenario of where the ceiling is. And then its floor is going to be 8-4, which obviously would account for losses to Ohio State, to Michigan. That's 2 right there. I don't know the schedule really off the top of my head, but it's a little bit of a drop for them. And then their chances of going 11-1 or better are 25%. So a 1-4 chance that they either just drop the one game, which is their ceiling, or that they somehow go undefeated. Remember, it's going to be a new team with Drew Allard, quarterback, no more Sean Clifford. They've gone out into the portal and picked up some receivers, but they're going to have to fill in a couple of spots too. Then we get down toward the bottom of the Big Ten, and we've got Iowa and Wisconsin. And as I said, Wisconsin is at 25 in the SP Plus ranking. Iowa's 27. I'm not buying the Iowa love yet. Brian Ferentz is still the offensive coordinator there, and at risk of moving into Tom Orr's territory. If you've not met Brian Ferentz in terms of what his offense is, it's not very good. Congratulations on going out and getting Cade McNamara from Michigan. Congratulations on going out and getting Eric All from Michigan. That's fine. Both are capable offensive players. I think part of the issue that Iowa had was that it didn't have guys to make plays, but I don't think it has enough guys to make plays. It's going to still be a nasty defense. That defense is still going to be great. But Brian Ferentz has to, in order not to receive, sanctions leading all the way up to termination, they got to average, 25 points a game? I don't know. Their ceiling is listed at 10-2, and I would take the under on that 6 ways from Sunday. Their floor is 7-5, which I think still may be a little bit high. I think that their floor needs to be closer to 6-6. Their chances of going 11-1 or better is 6%. And then we go to Wisconsin, who has 10-2, 7-5, and 6% as well. So you kind of see a mirror between Ohio State and Michigan at 2-3, and then you see a little bit of a mirror between Iowa and Wisconsin at 25 and 27. So it's good. Just looking forward to the start of the season. I know we're going to have a lot of shows as I'm going 5 days a week now. Between now and then, and we'll talk about everything frontwards, backwards, and sideways. But I found all of that interesting, and seeing Penn State getting as much respect as it did, being right there, honestly. Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Penn State 5 in the SP Plus rankings. It just shows once again that the Big Ten East is a crucible to get through, and it'll be interesting to see what we have in 2024 with SC and UCLA joining the league. Do we get away from divisions? Do we have the 6-3 type of scheduling where you have 3 permanent holdovers that you play on a yearly basis, and then 6 teams that you play as your crossovers? And I guess the way that the math works is that you'll be assured of playing everybody every 4 years or something of that nature. I don't know. I was told there would be no math. Tested out of math when I was at Ohio State back in the dark ages. I was fortunate for that. I liked math until about high school, and then I hated it. So there you go. Now, talking about math, the math isn't very good for Ohio State's men's basketball team. 11-14 overall, 3-11 in league play. The team has won 1 game since the very first week of January, and that was against Iowa in Columbus. Since then, it has just been abysmal. It's just been bad. You had Felix Akpara coming out, and I wasn't there for the interviews, but Adam Jardy of the Columbus Dispatch said that Akpara said that some guys just weren't coming out there with the dog in them, and he wasn't going to name names. But if you have a true freshman coming in and noticing that, that's a problem. We've seen some changes in terms of a captaincy changing hands. We don't know if anybody got dropped, but Bruce Thornton, the true freshman point guard, got a captaincy, even though Ohio State doesn't put those on the uniforms. I hate saying right off the season, anything can happen in the Big Ten tournament, but it probably isn't. What Ohio State has coming up, back-to-back road games at Iowa. Again, last win for Ohio State in league play was versus Iowa, but now you go to Carver Hawkeye, and then at Purdue. Purdue's been in that top 1-2 position in the nation for a little bit here. They're going to be very good, and playing at Mackey Arena is no easy task. Then you have home games against Penn State, Illinois, and Maryland, and then you close at Michigan State. So let's just say, I mean, even with, so that's 2, 5, 6 games left. If Ohio State goes 2-4, which Ohio State at this point is on pace to go 0-6. They haven't shown anything, but if they go in 2-4, I mean, that's going to be 5-15, and that's just going to be difficult for the Ohio State basketball fans to put up with. I'm not going to get into the argument, and I know it will come up in my mentions, but I think you have to give Chris Holtmann through next season. He's bringing in an extraordinary recruiting class. Yeah, I know we've heard that before, but this is going to be a really good recruiting class on top of this most recent class. You're not going to be as reliant on trying to fit people into positions. And if we're being honest, I just don't necessarily think that the vets that Ohio State had coming back have necessarily excelled this year. And that's not being critical. I've made it a longstanding policy that I'm not going to be super critical of players. That's just not my place to do that. I mean, I can sit there and say, so-and-so's not playing very well right now. It's very easy on social to see, well, this guy sucks. I'm not going to do that. But Zedke has been banged up. Justice Suing has been wildly inconsistent this year. Eugene Brown was injured to start the year and has really seen very few minutes along the way. And then I against my better judgment, I'll put Kalen Etzler in the group of returners, but he redshirted last year. So he wasn't really going to factor in this year, and he hasn't factored in this year. So you are dealing with a team that doesn't necessarily have an identity and just keeps losing the same game over and over and over again. And not every game has been the same. The results have been about the same. Ohio State loses by about 9 points, 8 points, 7 points in games that it seems like Ohio State under normal circumstances would have a chance to come back and win. People are going to sit there and circle and say that this is a Chris Holtmann issue. Well, I think that, the head coach, certainly the buck stops with the head coach and the position coaches and everything else. There's certainly some issues there. I'm not blind to that situation. There've been some rotations that I haven't necessarily liked, but what do I know? I'm a football guy. But Ohio State had better figure it out before March 8th when the Big Ten tournament starts in Chicago. I don't know what the math is on it, but it really seems like Ohio State absolutely is going to have to play on the Wednesday. I think Ohio State is 13th out of 14 teams right now, which means even if you do get through that, you're going to then draw a 4 or a 5 or somebody like that with the top couple seeds getting the double bye. It's going to be a hard road for the Ohio State basketball team. Wish them the best. Again, they're going to be in action again tomorrow against Iowa and then on the road against Purdue. But then you will have 3 more opportunities to see them at home: Penn State, Illinois, Maryland. I'll challenge this. If you're local and have the ability to get to a game, one, tickets probably aren't all that expensive because fan expectations are very low at the moment. But if you're as big of an Ohio State basketball fan as you say you are, and you have the chance, go out and see them and support them. Support them. Be loud. Be vocal. There certainly were some boo birds at the last game when Ohio State kind of faltered at the end of the half. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the most constructive thing, but you pay the bucks, go. Do what you want to. So, we'll see. Talking about viewership, I'm going to end the show on this, talking about Super Bowl viewership numbers and kind of comparing it to college football. The most recent Super Bowl on Fox Sports had 113 million viewers plus. And I think it was like 112.8 were on Fox Sports. And then I think the remainder to get there was via Fox Deportes, the Spanish language channel. And it takes a while to get everything in with streaming and some of these other metrics. I mean, Nielsen is not able to factor in ratings the way it used to, where it was just diaries or meters. You're having to do a lot of different things, and numbers are not always equal. It's not always apples to apples based on that, but 113 million and change. The largest Super Bowl audience on TV in 6 seasons, the 3rd most watched television show ever. Just think about that. In the history of television, the 3rd most watched show ever. it's not surprising that NFL is king. I went in and I looked at a couple of Ohio State numbers, and Ohio State always is among the national leaders in terms of viewership for college football. Ohio State against Notre Dame last year, season opener, 10.53 million viewers. So the Super Bowl did 100 million more viewers than Ohio State Notre Dame. Just think about that. And that Ohio State Notre Dame game completely blew everybody else out of the water. And these numbers for the college games are courtesy of Sports Media Watch. They are their numbers. They're not my numbers. I'm not a representative of Nielsen. I don't get the numbers sent to me, but Sports Media Watch always does a very good job with that. Let's move to the season finale, the regular season finale. Ohio State and Michigan did 17.14 million viewers. So 96 million viewers less than the Super Bowl. And then you get to the Peach Bowl against Georgia, almost 22.5 million viewers. And we're still looking at 113 million viewers for the Super Bowl. Now, you're seeing baseball numbers suffer, NBA numbers suffer, hockey numbers are just off the chart down right now since the contract moved to ESPN and Turner. And I'm not saying that's a result of ESPN and Turner, but if you guys are listening, I never know what game is going to be on at any given point. So it's hard to appointment view. You guys need to get the message out a little bit better. But NFL is always going to do those huge numbers, and NFL isn't perfect. It certainly isn't. It's got its issues. I mean, a lot of people are upset about how the game ended with the penalty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it has not dissuaded people from watching. So take it for what it is. But NFL is king when it comes to viewership, and that's just how it is. It's going to be that way probably forever. But, that kind of wraps up all of my thoughts that I have today here on this impromptu Wednesday show. Again, going 5 days a week. Join me tomorrow on Thursday. 11 o'clock seems to be the ideal time for me. Going live again to take all of your questions. Had a small but very vocal group with me on Tuesday. Hope that I get some of the questions I did get answered, that I get them asked back to me again so we have them for that show. But make it a regular occurrence. Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be my goal to go live as we go 5 days a week. Once again, check us out on BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's my day job. That's where everything goes to. So, for $13 a month, $12.99, you can get a monthly membership there. Join Buckeye fans from across the nation, from across the world. Talk about your favorite teams. I mean, everything. I mean, there's such a wide community in terms of everything that's being talked about. Had some great conversations about Super Bowl commercials. Maybe we talk about that a little bit this week, what people were cooking for the Super Bowl. Obviously, Browns, Bengals, Cavs, a lot of your Ohio teams, a lot of conversation there. And of course, too, it would make me look really good if a lot of people come in and say, hey, I'm giving you a look because of Kevin Noon and the Big Me Kickoff. But until next time, let's just call it a show. I will talk to you guys on Thursday live from this podcasting machine. And until then, have yourselves a wonderful day.